Hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. This is my top 10 worst SummerSlam main event matches. You've seen the best, now you get to see the worst. I know how you guys love some angry rants, so here we go. And by the way, I do have another unpopular opinion show coming up pretty soon on The Ultimate Warrior. Because I feel enough time's passed and I'm going to say my piece. But as for top 10 worst SummerSlam main events, we start with Hogan and Beefcake versus Savage and Zeus. I feel bad putting any match with Randy Savage on a worst list. It is not necessarily because of Savage or because of Beefcake or because of Hogan, but it is because of Beefcake. Beefcake just was not a good worker. I'm glad he survived that parasailing accident. I'm glad he seems to be having a good life now. He just wasn't a good worker. He was a man of many gimmicks and none of them good. And Zeus... It's pretty funny that the guy playing Zeus ended up being the president in The Fifth Element. He's a much better actor than he is a wrestler. But he wasn't a trained wrestler. I mean, so it's like, this wasn't good because it was trying to mix the no-holds-barred, thing, a movie, a fictitious movie, easy for me to say, into, real-life wrestling, or at least try to make it seem like it's real. So we just plucked this guy out of, the movie and put him here. Or we, brainwash the actor into thinking that he is. There were so many, weird angles going on here and weird theories. It just wasn't good. This still should have been when Savage was WWF champion. He should have been WWF champion here and then maybe dropped it next Saturday night's main event. Hogan did not need another year-long title reign before he dropped it to Warrior. Savage should have had about a year-and-a-half title reign. No, Hogan couldn't let his buddy do that. His great buddy, Randy Savage, who, by the way, is a better wrestler than Hogan ever was. But, that being said about the match. Basic match. It was a basic tag. It wasn't all that good. It did get eyeballs to the product, and the pay-per-view buys went up a huge amount from 88. Even though 88 did well, this one did very well. I believe broke 600,000 buys, if I recall correctly. But it just wasn't a good main event. It just wasn't. I mean, Savage did well, Hogan did well, Beefcake was kind of there, and Zeus was supposed to be the monster. It just wasn't good. Number 9, Taker versus Brock at SummerSlam 2015. One of the most unnecessary rematches ever. I know Brock broke the streak, but it was a year and a half later. Sorry, that was not a good build to it. It just wasn't. This one good meme and GIF came out. This was, Brock sitting up laughing and Taker sitting laughing, and they start punching each other. It was the one good part of this goddamn match. It wasn't very good. It just wasn't. I mean, Taker was not what he was. Brock sort of cared at this point. It just wasn't good. It just wasn't. And then the sloppy finish with Taker tapping out, but wait, the ref didn't ring the bell, and then Taker got the win as Brock flipped him off and then passed out. It just wasn't good. And then they had another match at Hell in a Cell 2015, which was better, admittedly, than this. But besides that one meme, and the one meme and GIF or whatever, it was not good at all. It just wasn't. It was a very, very sloppy main event. And number 8, Team WWE versus Team Nexus. Let me first say that Bret Hart shouldn't have been wrestling in 2010. And I love Bret Hart. But he couldn't take bumps. And he got DQ because he used a chair. I love Bret, but seriously, he should have not been wrestling. He had a Lloyd's of London insurance policy he was, collecting on because of all the injuries and stuff that he had. And he probably had to stop wrestling, competing in matches. I mean, even though I don't think he was listed as a wrestler. Otherwise, he might not be able to collect on the insurance anymore. At least I believe he had a Lloyd's of London insurance policy. But, yeah, Team Nexus, you had such a goddamn chance to make a bunch of stars here. Even if Nexus could have gone on to Mania 27. That horrible main event, that horrible show. Main event wasn't even the worst, but that horrible pay-per-view. But Nexus got killed. They got killed deader than dead. It was just bad. As John Leguizamo said and Spawn, DED, dead. I mean, it's DEAD, but it was a great lengthy main event. They told a good story with it, but Cena was in charge of the finish and took a DDT on the outside, around the outside, and then beat the last two Nexus members. It was cool Daniel Bryan got to come back and be part of Team WWE, but he should have betrayed them and rejoined Team Nexus. That would have been the best story to tell. But no, Cena buried the Nexus. And then buried him again. And then buried him again. And yes, Ryan Reeves or Skip Sheffield, Ryback. You know, the man who invented everything. I think all the roids had gone to his goddamn brain. he ended up hurting his ankle. Fortunately, he came back. Certainly wouldn't wish the injury on the man. And fortunately, he was able to get his foot right, since I guess his foot was all the way turned around. Now he's got a whole bunch of projects going. Is it about roids? Because that's probably about all it's going to be. Oh, apparently women need to shake their asses and and promote their sexuality more. I mean, come on, Ryback. Seriously. But moving on from that, back to the 2010 Team WWE versus Team Nexus thing. Just the finish killed it. Cena and Edge and Jericho said that's not a good idea. It's going to make the Nexus look weak. Cena overrode them. Did it? Oh yeah, it made the Nexus look super weak and killed them. Killed him dead. And to Cena's credit, he has lost at every SummerSlam since, but I still haven't forgiven Cena for that. It was a very monumentally stupid decision. You would have thought Cena would have had, you would have thought Cena would have had a smart, a smart idea of what to do in business. He certainly doesn't have a smart idea about who he's with as far as a girlfriend. Sorry, I just don't see the appeal of Nikki Bella. I just don't. It just physically, I mean, she looks like she'd melt under spotlights. But anyway, Team WWE versus Team Nexus. The finish is what killed it. The psychology of the tag match actually, for the most part, was pretty damn good. But the finish just killed it dead. And that's why it's here at number 8. Number 7, Ultimate Warrior versus Rick Rude. Oh, where to begin with Ultimate Warrior, one of the worst motherfucking workers on the face of the planet. And one of the biggest egos, and believed his own hype, and thought he was better than he was, and loved the spotlight. But enough about his wife. That's right, I'm going to pick on his wife. I know she lost her husband, and I have sympathy for that, I really do. But she's more of a glory hog for the spotlight than he is. Ultimate Warrior was during his WWF Championship run here against Rick Rude. Rick Rude's last WWF pay-per-view match. And Rick Rude actually had a haircut recently. He had his shorter hair that he would, carry on through WCW. In a much better run than he had in WWE. Because they actually gave him more championships. I love Rick Rude. I don't like Warrior. At all. I have no respect for Warrior. At all. I hope his children grow up to be a better people than he ever was. But this cage match, it was weird. Because it seemed like it ended too quickly, like Warrior just forgot the rest of it or whatever and got out while Rude was still waiting to fight, busted open. And Warrior did Rick Rude's grind thing, swinging his hips and then dropped down and won. And maybe Warrior didn't do it. Maybe the match was supposed to end like that. It just seemed like it ended so soon. And I'm like, really? That's it? It was a basic cage match. I'm sorry. Rude should have beaten Warrior more often in their feud. He did beat him at WrestleMania 5, but that was because Bobby Heenan was holding the leg, and then Warrior ended up injuring Heenan. Shock of shocks, because he was a careless, clueless fuck in the ring. Number 6, Orton versus Brock. Well, Brock busted open Orton's head, and that was about it. I mean, there really wasn't much to this match. It was basic, it was an 8-minute match, it was uncomfortable, it was sloppy. And I'm sorry, I just didn't enjoy it. I mean, I put the Brock versus Cena match on my best list. And if you guys are watching this, maybe you watch that and you know that. This just wasn't good. It's like it left me. I was like, okay, he busted him open. I'm like, oh God, wow, Orton's really busted open. And then couldn't compete because he got a legit concussion because Brock is not so careful with people when he wants to be. But I guess Brock just didn't give a shit about Orton or his kids. Brock won, I just didn't care for it. Number 5, Hogan and Warrior versus Slaughter, Colonel Mustafa, not Mustafa Ali. This was way too soon. But Colonel Mustafa, a.k.a. the Iron Sheik, and General Adnan. It's continuing the Hogan-Slaughter feud, and also mixing Warrior and Slaughter, and Sid Justice was a special guest referee. And Mustafa, I mean, Iron Sheik couldn't even move at this point. It was kind of sad to watch. But Hogan and Warrior, and this was the famous one where Warrior held Vince up for money. I feel I earn more money, so I'm going to hold you up before the biggest pay-per-view of the summer. Because I'm a droided up jackass. I'm not saying Vince is I'm not saying Vince is absolved of any blame. I'm not saying Vince hasn't been cruel to people. I'm not saying he hasn't. But to hold somebody up for money right before a main event, no. Or right before the event, no. Uncalled for. Match went off without a hitch because Vince agreed to pay Warrior. Just ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. And the match wasn't all that good. It was pretty sloppy. I mean, and of course, Hogan and Warrior won. I mean, they were going to win. But it just wasn't. It was just because I mean, Slaughter wasn't nearly the worker that he was. I think Hogan was probably the best worker out of anybody in the match. And Hogan was starting to break down. Warrior certainly couldn't wrestle. Slaughter was beat up at that point and would retire from full-time competition soon after. I think he'd have a bit of a run in the USWA after 92, like in like 93 and stuff like that. I remember seeing that on a local access cable when I, like in like 93, 94, at least 93. But yeah, just Slaughter after that, I mean, like, would retire mostly from full-time competition. He'd been wrestling for years, so it made sense. But the match itself was just not good. It just wasn't. And, I mean, Sid Justice, I think, actually might have been the best worker, and he didn't even work. He just did the referee spot. But yeah, it was silly, and Warrior got suspended soon after, or fired. Good. That's what needed to happen. That wouldn't be the last time that would happen. Excuse me. And number 4, Hogan or Yokozuna versus Lex Luger. Sorry, I said Hogan because they tried to push Lex Luger. They tried to push Lex Luger, and now Luger needs to be pushed because that's what karma does to you, Lex, for being a murderer. Yokozuna versus Lex Luger, big build. Luger was going to win the WWF Championship. It was set in stone. It was set in stone that he was going to win the championship. Rumors are half the locker room was going to walk out if Luger was made the champion. And Vince had it end with balloons and streamers and everything dropping down. But Luger won by countout. And everybody, even the fans, even some fans of Pop Dirt, some fans are like, he didn't win the title. Why are we cheering? It's just bad. You know, let's build up to let's have the chase of Luger getting the championship when you already had him having the chase for a few weeks. I mean, it's like the initial turn for Luger going from, the narcissist to a babyface worked fine. The problem is Luger's a 10 times a better heel than he ever was as a babyface. And when Luger won by countout and didn't win the title here, killed his push. He wasn't going to recapture that. Even though they tried to have the feud go after that, even in the Survivor Series. With Undertaker having an American flag underneath his jacket. Because, American badass, he truly is. But that was not good. And Luger didn't win the title at WrestleMania 10. Brett did, the better worker. The guy who didn't kill his girlfriend like Luger did. Allegedly. But the match itself, Luger, looking in hindsight, Luger should have won, but I see why Vince didn't have him win. I'm just saying, it's like all signs point to Luger winning. He didn't, and it killed him dead. Now, number 3, Hogan versus Shawn Michaels, 2005 SummerSlam. This is for funniest main event. This would be number 1. No questions asked, and no doubt about it, because Shawn flopped around like a fish. He was supposed to, I guess it was supposed to be a trilogy of matches. Shawn was supposed to at least win one. And Hogan didn't want to do that. He had back problems and knee problems and would just beat Shawn. Shawn's like, okay, I'm going to make a mockery of the whole thing. And did all that, and it was great. It was great stuff. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. It was an embarrassing main event, but you know what? It was funny. Because Hogan was just like, what the hell? Like, Shawn sold like Hogan had a cinder block in his hand. The boot, the big boot. Shawn popped up, did that and fell back down. I don't blame Shawn for doing that. I'm not the biggest fan necessarily of Shawn, you know, for being like as far as his political backstage attitude. And this wasn't his born again phase, but yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. I mean, I'm sorry, it was funny. It was funny because Hogan deserved it. Because Hogan was, of course, the egotistical, creative control having prick that he was. And still is, I'm sure. Now he's just racist. But, of course, Hogan won. Poor Shawn. Shawn should have at least gotten one victory. Maybe it's Unforgiven. If Hogan won there and Shawn had won an Unforgiven, and then they had maybe another match at, say, the Royal Rumble, I would have been all for that. Number 2, Undertaker versus Undertaker. No. Brett versus Owen should have main evented. If Brett versus Owen had main evented, that would have actually been number 1. I don't understand why Taker versus Taker main evented. It was just not good. It was just not good. I mean, it's like it was Ted DiBiase's Undertaker. It was Brian Lee against the real Undertaker with Paul Bearer. And it was silly. It was ridiculous. Taker had like, I believe, I think he needed back surgery or something like that, and he needed rest injuries or stuff like that, and he was out after the Royal Rumble, and out for like 6 months. So actually, this was about 7 months. But yeah, it was slow plotting, and after seeing the great cage match that you had between Brett and Owen, this was not very good. Number 1, Diesel versus King Mabel at the 1995 SummerSlam. Oh, sweet quad tearing Jesus. This was bad. Diesel was a good champion in the sense that he was a good champion in this sense. He was not a good drawing champion. Considering they put the belt on him and he had not had that many matches before having that championship run, I think he did the best he could. He had some good matches with Brett, including at the 1995 Rumble. And you have a better match with Brett at the 1995 Survivor Series, where he would lose the title back to Brett. But this was just not good. I mean, Mabel was not a good King of the Ring winner. He just wasn't, and he was big and bulky and he could move well-ish, but he was known for injuring his opponents, and it just wasn't believable, and Nash couldn't get him up for the jackknife. There was no way he'd get him up for the jackknife. He'd tear his quads and Mabel's quads if he did that. But he won. Great. I mean, Diesel won. At least there was that. At least they didn't make Mabel the champion. God forbid. This is just so bad. It was just so bad and so sloppy. It was not the worst main event that Diesel would be involved in 1995, but this was the worst one at SummerSlam, obviously. And there's only one SummerSlam in 95. So that's what I gotta say about the 10 worst SummerSlam main events in WWE history. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? Did you enjoy my rants? Do you think I went too far? Sorry, it's my show. You guys can debate if you'd like. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link is in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you soon.